While this video is about the call script, I really want us to get out of the habit of relying so much on scripts. Call scripts can only take us so far. So this training isn't so much about the script itself. Instead, it's about understanding the principles behind the script. We're going to break down each section so you have a better understanding of why and how to communicate using a script. But before we do, let me preface by saying, when you feel uncomfortable talking to a prospect, they can sense that discomfort, and in turn, they become uncomfortable. Leasing, when done correctly, is simply matching. The prospect's interested in your apartments, and you're interested in helping the prospect lease an apartment. That's it. You're a matchmaker. You're not here to convince anyone of anything. You're simply making the match to help the prospect find their next home. And when you have this perspective going into the conversation, you alleviate some of that pressure. So let's talk about this matchmaking process. During a leasing call, you have several objectives: build rapport, gain an understanding for what the prospect is looking for, match, and close. Matching is really just gathering information about the prospect's needs, considering what you have to offer, and then presenting it in a way that allows the prospect to visualize themselves benefiting from it all. So the very beginning of a leasing call is where first impressions are made. The phone rings, you answer it, and of course there are various greetings you could use. But don't forget to smile. It's true, the prospect can hear it through the phone. And if you do it every time, you'll learn to turn on your leasing game. By the way, don't wait for the prospect to show interest in leasing before you show enthusiasm on the phone. It's just not a good look. It comes across as phony. So smile when you answer the phone and throughout the call, of course. Now, once you've extended your greeting, the prospect will typically respond with inquiring about pricing or availability. According to the call script, usually this is where you gather contact information. You ask for the prospect's name, number, and email. But I'm more concerned with how we're asking. If you've been leasing for a while, you know there's an overwhelming amount of information you need to gather on this call. It can sometimes feel like an interrogation, so I want you to play around with the questions. In fact, try to make every question sound original. What I mean is, instead of saying, "What's your name?" or "Could I get your name?" you could say, "Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?" For the phone number, you may try, "Is the number you're calling from a good callback number in case we get disconnected?" Then, when you're asking for the email address and other information, it's less likely to come across as invasive because you varied your delivery. If your call script says, "What's your name? What's your phone number? What's your email address?" that's a problem in and of itself. But remember, the call script is a guide, not a screenplay. So you'll need to gather the prospect's name, phone number, email address, move-in date, preferred floor plan, number of occupants, pets, desired features, and preferred floor level. That's a lot of information. Leasing agents sometimes get overwhelmed or skip a lot of the inquiry portion of the phone call. In fact, we reviewed the data and found that this was the section to receive the lowest shop scores on both phone calls and tours. So how do we gather information in a way that doesn't come across as an interrogation? The first thing is to come to terms with the fact that the prospect is already interested. They want you to help them. It's not about what we're asking or even the quantity of questions we're asking. It's the how. Remember the basics. You started the conversation with a friendly and warm greeting. Now use their name. Everyone's favorite word is their name. Try to use the prospect's name at least 3 times in the call. In the beginning, somewhere in the middle, and then towards the end. It communicates that you don't see them as just another number, and it helps build trust and rapport. And if the prospect doesn't seem to be engaging, try asking probing questions. I know adding more questions sounds crazy, but probing questions allow you to go a little off script. They give you the chance to see things from the prospect's perspective. Combined with some of the tactics reviewed in the last video, they can help the prospect feel both relaxed and understood. Some probing questions include, where are you living now? Oh, what's causing you to move? Is there anything you would not like in your new home? Do you prefer a home with lots of natural light or a more dim one? Don't be afraid to go off script. Remember, it's not meant to be used as a declaration. It's a guide. Plus, imagine how many phone calls this prospect has made getting the exact same questions thrown at them over and over and over. It's a little draining. It's nice to speak to a human being for once. That takes us to the next step in the matchmaking process, listening. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, so if you haven't watched the last section, go back and watch it. There are quite a few practicals in that video. However, I can't stress enough how important listening is. Unless you know what the prospect is looking for, you can't meet their needs. And there's no point in asking questions if you're not going to listen for the answers. Listen for keywords. This can be anything from floor plans, family structure, a recent event they just had, a must-have, a frustration with their current community. It can come in various forms. But no matter how it's communicated, your job is to listen, so you'll be able to match their wants with your availability. If you listen and engage in the conversation, you'll know what they're looking for, which will lead you right to the next step, making the match. When it comes to matching, you must know your product. Gathering information is not enough. You cannot match a prospect if you do not know your product. You have to know your availability, floor plans, floor levels, which ones have garages, which ones are renovated, what type of flooring they have, what views, what prices. Study your product. Don't wait until you're on the call to begin looking at your availability. You should be reviewing and re-reviewing your availability several times a day if possible. Taking the prospect's information and not being able to deliver a solution on the spot will always put you in second place. If you want to lease, make the match. If you want to make the match, know your product. And don't just know it, learn to communicate what you have to offer in the prospect's language. What do I mean by that? Use words and terms that they're using. Tracy says she wants a 2-bedroom apartment. She would prefer to be on the 2nd or 3rd floor and would like to have a view if possible. She also mentioned that she didn't like that her current apartment doesn't have a washer dryer in unit. She's giving you her hot buttons, so use them. Thanks, Tracy. We actually have a 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor with a full-size washer and dryer. It's facing the pool. It'll be available on X date. I really think you'll like it. Are you ready to apply? If you can make the match, you can close. You have what the prospect is looking for. Just ask them if they want to apply. Close. Are you ready to put down a deposit to hold it? Are you ready to apply? When do you think you'll be looking to make a decision? Would now be a good time to walk through the application process? Once you've gotten through the match, close. I don't know if it can be any simpler than that. Let's get out of the mindset that a tour is required. They may very well ask to see it first. And that's a great thing because they haven't said no. In fact, it's now become their idea to come and see it in person. As long as you don't scare them away or give them a reason to lease elsewhere, it's probably a done deal. But ask for the application. You're doing them a favor. When we ask the prospect on the phone if they're ready to apply, they will give us a valuable response, a response that helps you gauge the likelihood of them leasing. If you don't ask, you have no idea where you stand with that prospect, even if they do schedule a tour. We already know there's a possibility they could respond saying they'd like to see it first, or they're still looking around, or there's someone they need to talk to. But when you ask, you'll be able to separate your hot leads from your warm leads. Plus, nowadays, leasing sight unseen is more common than it's ever been, especially with virtual technology like Matterports and VR. So ask for the application. You'll be surprised how many people will apply simply because you asked. And for those that don't, you'll have a better understanding of where they stand in the process. And this should go without saying, but follow up on your prospects. Follow up at least 4 times. Remember, attention sells, and to remain top of mind, you have to follow up. And if you do actually need a call script or follow-up templates, they're located within this course. I'll see you in the next video.